This is just a quick video to show a Discovery 2 washer bottle relocation mod. I'm partway through this mod already. I just suddenly thought there's not a huge amount on the net about it, so I would take the opportunity just to kind of record my thinking and show you guys my approach to this. So the stock Discovery 2 washer bottle hides just round about here, just in front of the wheel. So if you are sans bumper or sans stock bumper such as myself, obviously the tubular winch bumper sits here, the bottle hangs down about here, and it does take an absolute clobbering, so it is a pretty popular mod to move it. Now, those of you who are familiar with the Discovery 1 will know that its washer bottle sits around about here at the back of the engine bay, just next to the bulkhead, and well, frankly, the D2 has a nice space there that is fitting of a washer bottle. Now, there are a couple of ways to do this. Some folks will adapt the existing washer bottle that came with the car. I actually managed to luck out and find a Discovery 1 washer bottle at a Breakers. It does fit in there a little bit nicer, just because it's sort of semi-designed to. However, you can make a D2 washer bottle work as well. However, that is obviously going to be beyond the scope of this video, just because I've got a nice D1 washer bottle, and if you want to save yourself a bit of faffing around, you might well pick one up yourself. In terms of pumps, the pumps on these are a little bit smaller, but they are the same connector, they are wired the same way, and the D2 plugs do fit straight onto them. This is the rear washer, front washer, and this guy here is for the headlights. Obviously, no headlight washers because no bumper, so all I've done there is popped a bit of tubing on, put a zip tie around it, just put a nice kink in the end. That's going to stop anything leaking out. You could pull the washer pump out altogether and in the gap, fill that with some RTV silicone or some other equivalent sealant as well. That would be a good approach to take. In terms of mounting options, we've got, so when I picked this up at the breaker, it actually came off the D2, someone had done the same mod, and they'd kind of taken this sort of stock mounting bracket for the D1 and bent it all out of shape and sort of loosely bolted it onto the bulkhead. It wasn't a great job, to be honest. I thought I could do better, so I cracked my welder out and started trying to weld up a couple of brackets, only to find that sadly I'd run out of welding gas, so save a trip down to the welding store, I canned that idea and thought, that's a problem for later me, and the large zip ties came out, of course. Being a Land Rover owner, I'm sure everybody watching this video is a zip tie mechanic, certified well and true, and as such, I'm sure this won't be the only instance of this you find on your car. However, that's going to be my approach, and you may well want to do the same, or if you want to go to the effort of making a slightly more rugged, bracket, not that these aren't, they're pretty beefy dies, obviously crack on and do so. Now, in terms of wiring, I've taken the following approach. So, airbox out, you need the airbox out, you need the space and here to work. So, yeah, airbox out for sure. In here, this is the loom that comes down. It goes down through this grommet here, down below to where the washer bottle is. You can see the grommet there. Now, again, hindsight's a wonderful thing, just thinking about making this video. But there are actually sort of a few things on this loom you need to be aware of. These are the two actual washer, spigot, pipe bits and pieces that connect to the pumps. The red taped one there is for the rear washer, and the one with no tape or black tape is for the front washer. Now, the front washer I've just capped off in a similar way to the bottle because we can grab that from a little bit further up, saves running two pipes. The rear washer, if you wanted to undo all of the tape and that around the loom, you could take that on further up as well. But for the sake of simplicity, I decided to tap into that one here. So we've got a piece of clear pipe just with a coupling. This is all part of it. The coupling is included as part of the old washer bottle, so we can just reuse that. Piece of clear pipe. This is 5mm pipe off the top of my head. I believe OEM is 4mm, but 5mm is absolutely fine, and a zip tie around it holds it, no problems, no leaks there or anything. And I've run two cables. Now, the two greens are the actual feeds for the washer pump, the 12-volt feeds that come through from the buttons, and then the black is a common ground that I've just, shared between them. These are just done with a Western Union join on them and heat shrunk together. So the two plugs now, I'll see if I can find those. Here we go. So this is the one for the front washer jet. This is just part of that loom. Cut them off, simple as that. Leave yourself a nice decent chunk both sides. And once you've cut them off, you can, see if I can get the phone to focus on this one, you can then go ahead and splice onto the existing cables down here. Now bear in mind, this is the part that goes to, I should expect, the BCU and what receives the signal from the car to pump the washer jets. So both of these black cables off of each connector are spliced together and then onto this black cable, and each of these green-orange ones has an independent feed that comes up as well. Obviously, sorry I couldn't show you that in a little bit more detail. As I say, the video was a bit of an afterthought, but hopefully informative nonetheless. Now I've just taken that up the side of the wing here, more or less clipped it along to this pipe. I'm not sure what that is off the top of my head, potentially part of the air conditioning loop, and literally just along the back here to where I'm going to site the new washer bottle. I mentioned before that we can take the front jets a little bit further up, so let's see if I can get the phone in here. All right, you're going to focus. There we go. So this spigot here, this line here, I'm not going to show you down there, but it actually comes into this main sort of loom binding, and that goes down to that front pipe that we blocked off. So I've just done the same here in case I wanted to restore the stock functionality. I don't want all the dirt and crap from the trail getting into the pipe, so I've blocked that off just the same with a bit of tubing and a zip tie around it. Now, windscreen washers. Got on focus, there we go. I've just taken the pipe here that was previously connected to that little spigot, put an inline coupler on it, and just extended it a wee bit onto the end of the pump. As I said, the black end is for the front washers, the red end is for the rear. As far as I can tell, there's no difference between them other than colour. The connectors are the same. They can be connected to each other, and the wrong button works the wrong washer, if that makes sense. But just kind of keep it in mind, the red connector down here will be for the rear washer, not the front. I'm going to go ahead and trim some of these cables and bits and pieces down, and then re-splice the connectors onto the end, and I'll be back with you to show you what I've done there. Right, I've made some more progress up this end, so those three cables I mentioned before are now spliced onto the existing kind of washer pumps. Obviously, I can't easily see the colour in that up here, so what I did is I just twisted one round, one of the pumps, and ran the windscreen washer and the rear washer in the car to work out if it was going to the right pump, if that makes sense. And it wasn't, so I swapped them, and then obviously made the joint permanent. So that piece of tube on there, I've just loosely fitted for now. That goes to the rear jets, and then this tube here goes straight up to the front jets. The grounds I've taken out like this and converged them onto the one which, as I mentioned before, goes all the way back down here. So that is connected and that is working. It's been tested. I'm just going to stick a zip tie around there because I've just realised I've missed that. But while we're on the subject of zip ties, I didn't mention earlier where this guy here is attached to. So the fuel reset button there has got a nice little bracket behind it. You can kind of just thread a zip tie through. Along the back, could go behind this foam if you wanted to. And then this guy here is the alarm horn bracket. I've taken it off at the moment. I'm going to put it back on. I'm not 100% convinced it works, to be honest, but I will probably relocate that somewhere over here, maybe just onto the wing. I'm not quite sure the plug for it is there, so I haven't got too much to play with if I don't want to extend it, and I don't, so likely over here somewhere or just elsewhere on the bulkhead. So nice long zip tie, nicely anchored. Honestly, I'm pretty convinced that that's a better quote-unquote bracket than what I was going to make out of metal. I think it's going to be nice and sturdy. So I will get this last pipe zip tied in, seat this bottle in place, zip tie up and tidy these cables up, and be back with you then for a final check-in. Last update for you guys. Everything's in. I've confirmed the washers are working as intended. A couple of things I just want to talk about quickly now that all is said and done. Firstly, the connections there, you can see they're not taut. I've left a little bit of slack on them. This is partially intentional, just for ease of access getting the bottle in and out, but also just because I'd already done the splice, I didn't want to take it all apart and cut it smaller, so it's kind of just coiled down, but it's tied out of the way neatly, so I'm happy enough with that. Second thing I want to point out, a second zip tie has appeared. I'll get to that in a minute. Third thing I want to point out, the bottle is not straight. That's just, I think, largely due to the location of the holes on the bottom zip tie, but let me just talk about that a little bit more. So the bottom tie there, I had sort of intended to, I'm trying to get the camera in here so you can see, just about, I think, see there. So where that top zip tie is, it's sort of resting under this little bulge on the washer bottle. I'd intended for the bottom one to sit there as well. However, due to the locations of the kind of, I guess, mounting points on the firewall, it rode down a little bit. And what that ended up doing is only sort of just catching the bottle on the bottom. Now, this did hold it reasonably well, but it was kind of floppy. So I just wanted something to kind of keep it upright, or largely upright. So that zip tie there at the bottom is tight, and that's doing most of the sort of holding of the bottle. And then this guy at the top is sort of just, I guess, like a sling if you broke your arm, round the back like that. And it's just kind of over these pipes at the top here. Can't remember what these do off the top of my head without looking in the workshop manual. However, just one thing to highlight, I was a bit apprehensive about tying off onto these originally, being, you know, pipes and everything. But there's 4 of them. They're rigid pipes. They are really, really on there. I'm not worried about them coming loose or cracking or anything like that. And as I say, the sort of brunt of the inertia of the washer bottle was borne by the lower zip tie anyway. I give that a little wobble. It's in there pretty good. I'm happy with that. I don't think that's going to come off on the trail. I may revise the mounting at some point, but as I say, I think this is better than kind of the alternative that I had at the time. So yeah, there we go. D2 washer bottle relocation mod with a D1 washer bottle. You can see that sort of designed to fit in there quite nicely. Enough the factory mounts were there, and you could make it work with the factory mounts if you sort of took some of the foam off and drilled into the firewall and popped a riv nut in there and things like that, but I wasn't going to those lengths. If the MOT tester's got a problem with it, I may have to revise this in the future, but that's a problem for as and when. So yeah, there we go. Not too difficult a mod. I would say the most time-consuming part was just splicing the wires and tying everything back. As I say, you can use a D2 washer bottle. They're slightly different shape, and you probably will have to plug up a hole. And deal with the fillet neck, because the fillet top doesn't just sit on the top like that one. There's a whole neck that comes up, because ordinarily it would be under here, as you well know. But yeah, no, I hope that's helped somebody out. As I say, there wasn't a lot on the net when I was looking. I think a couple of forum posts that were a little bit helpful, but that's about it. So here's an example of what I did. Obviously, you know, interpret this how you will, go for your own approach, copy this, you know, to the letter, so to speak. But yeah, I think it's a really good mod. I think the washer bottle is in a terrible place on the D2, especially if you want to take it off-roading, because it's just going to get absolutely clobbered by anything that kind of goes near that that front bumper, especially if it's not there. But yeah, that's all I've got for you. Thanks for watching.